So chapter 30 of Genesis is pretty crazy. Jacob comes into the chapter having two wives who are both cousins. One cousin he didn't want, one cousin he did want, but he was tricked into the cousin he didn't want. And then God made the cousin he didn't want have children because she wasn't wanted. That's everything that happened up until this point. So he continues having children with people, but then fertility starts going back and forth because I guess God is watching them and he starts choosing who gets to have kids and who doesn't. But the first thing that happens is that Rachel, the younger, more attractive cousin that Jacob originally wanted to marry before accidentally marrying the older, less attractive cousin, Rachel can't have kids, so she suggests that Jacob has kids with her servant. So she marries him off to her servant, starts having kids with her, and then eventually it becomes like a dramatic thing where then Leah can't have kids because she already had some. God turned off the knob. So Leah gives her servant to Jacob. Jacob's just sleeping with all these different women. At some point, the best part of the story for sure is when one of the children named Reuben, I think it's Leah's son, Reuben, like the sandwich. He goes out into a field and he picks up mandrake plants. Mandrake like Harry Potter, I'm pretty sure, like the screaming babies who come out. And he brings back the mandrakes to Leah. And then Leah's sister, who's also married to Jacob, who's been having fertility problems, goes, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." And Leah, in response, says, "Wasn't it enough that you took away my husband?" Rachel comes and goes, "Can I have some plants?" And she goes, "Was my husband not enough? You already took him away. Will you take my son's mandrakes too?" And Rachel goes, "Very well. In return for your mandrakes, he can sleep with you tonight." She literally says, "Very well, he can sleep with you tonight in return for your son's mandrakes." So Jacob comes back. He's out in a field, according to the Bible. He's just wandering out in a field. He comes back home, and this is what happens. Leah approaches him, and she says, quote, this is Genesis chapter 30, verse 16. "So when Jacob came in from the fields that evening, Leah went out to meet him. 'You must sleep with me,' she said. 'I have hired you with my son's mandrakes.'" That's literally what happens. So after like the first half of the chapter, he has sons with all these different women, just left and right. And then the second half is just about Jacob selectively breeding sheep. He tries to leave Laban, who's the uncle. He's the father of these two daughters. It's his uncle, and he gives his two daughters, his cousins, to him to marry. And that's who all this drama is happening with. And then he goes, "Hey, I don't want you to leave." Jacob wants to go, and Laban goes, "No, keep working for me," because he likes the labor that his son provides and the wealth that his son has generated. And so he goes, "Okay, how about I just go 3 days away?" He goes 3 days away by foot. He says, "I'll breed sheep. I'll breed goats and sheep, and I'll just keep the speckled ones." And he said, like, one of dark streaks with speckles and dark fur. And if you come to my farm and you see that there is something that's unspeckled, like a bright white sheep, you know that I've stolen them. And you know I'm not tricking you with your sheep that I've taken. I'll send you back sheep, and you'll know that they really were from me because they're speckled and they're not white, because I can't breed white sheep. And then he ends up taking advantage of him anyway, because he selectively breeds the strong sheep for himself and the weak sheep for his uncle, who he worked for years, at least 14 years, we know from what the Bible tells us. So it starts with a whole bunch of drama. Honestly, this is a great chapter. This is very entertaining. I recommend it to anybody. Some of the chapters can be a little dry, not a lot happens, but this one was a banger. This is one of the best chapters of Genesis so far. Undermines his own uncle with selective breeding after doing the do with his daughters and their servants. That was wild. That was a wild chapter. I'll see you guys. We're 60% of the way through Genesis. So I will see you guys for the next one.